Hey, welcome to this week's The Real Estate of Life with Kevin Riles. This is your host, Kevin Riles. This week, we are going to talk about, does the $150,000 single family investment deal still exist? Is it still out there? Is it like Bigfoot? Is it a mystery? Can you still buy investment properties in Houston under $150,000? I have the answers, but you have to wait to listen to see if it's yes or no. Does Bigfoot or the big deal or the small deal really still exists? Hey, DJ, hit that music so they can find out.
Support for this program comes from the Digital Broadcasting Network, presenting podcasts and web series from everyday people who have an extraordinary passion to make the world a better place.
Hey, we're back on The Real Estate of Life with Kevin Riles. I'm your host, Kevin Riles. You just got me this week. I wanted to talk about, does Bigfoot still exist? Not Bigfoot. I'm calling it Bigfoot because all of this new stuff y'all see out in the news where people are still doing Bigfoot tours to see if Bigfoot still exists. And my version of Bigfoot this week is, does the $150,000 real estate single family deal still exist? Or is it like Bigfoot and it's a mystery, it's a lie? The reason I brought that up is because I just handled a transaction for a client. And he asked me that question, and I decided to spend some time in the office looking to see if I could find potential deals in the Houston market on a single family house that were, 150 and below that were worth purchasing. And this is what I found. What I found was Nope, wait, mystery, cliffhanger. Nope. Let's back up. So let me give you a little history and context. And this is specific to the Houston market. It might be different in other markets, but back in the day, so I've been in real estate. I was licensed in October of 1998. That's when I first got my real estate license. So as of October of last year, I've been in the business now 20 years and some months now, because we're taping this in the first day of March in 2019. And so back in the day when I got into real estate, an investment property in the Houston market, the typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage house, which in Texas and in Houston, that's kind of your typical house, 3 bedrooms, 2-bath, 2-car garage, built in the late 70s, early 80s, or even all the way through the 90s. You could get a older home for about $65,000 to $70,000. You could get a new construction 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage for about $110,000, $120,000. That was 20 years ago, right? And so you fast forward to give you how inflation works. If you fast forward to now, a new construction home, 18, and the square footage on those homes will probably be anywhere from 1,600 to 1,800 square feet. A new construction home, the average price for that type of home in Houston now is around $200,000, right? $180,000 to $200,000 for new construction. And for a resale home, some of the areas in Houston, that's almost the exact same price. And so the issue is that if you buy a property at that price point and you, as an investment property, unfortunately, you don't get the rents that would give you a cash flow on that particular property. And why is that? If you buy a property at 1,600 to 1,800 square feet in Houston, in most places in Houston, your rents are $1 a square foot, plus or minus $1 a square foot. So it means if you buy a 1,600, 1,700, 1,800 square foot home, your rent is most likely going to be around $1,600, $1,700, or $1,800 a month. Well, if you buy a $200,000 property, you put the standard amount down, there's very little margin between what your rent is and after you pay your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, what your monthly payment would be. In fact, typically you would either break even or you'd be losing money on a monthly basis. And so that's not why you invest, right? But you invest so that you can create wealth and create cash flow. And those are sometimes mutually exclusive. Sometimes you buy properties that are way better cash flow properties, but may not appreciate over time. And then sometimes you buy properties where the cash flow is not as great, but you know you're going to get great appreciation. But if you're playing in that one plus or minus 150, You kind of need both to make sure that you're going to be okay. And so because the market is so tight, and I blame HGTV for this, I blame Property Brothers, I blame Flip It or List It, I blame all of it. I don't know the names of shows because I don't really watch them. And people say, why don't you watch HTV as much? I say, well, do you watch TV shows about your work when you come home? So if you're an accountant, do you go watch an accountant show? I don't know. It's just what I do, so I don't watch it. Anyway, long story short, except when I'm seems like in every title company it's on, in every doctor's office, HGTV is on, so I watch it then. So I say all that to say that and I say I blame, I'm being facetious to a certain extent, they have done a good job of educating people on the value of real estate and the value of taking properties, renovating them, and either trying to flip them or lease them out, but mostly flip them. Because of that, everybody thinks that they can go and buy a house, renovate it, get it staged, and sell it. And that has created a demand for single-family housing, especially value single-family housing, and therefore prices have gone up, and therefore yields for cash flow have gone down, right? And so with that being said, this is not in Houston right now a great flipping market, right? When I say flipping, I mean buying something low, renovating it, and selling it. Not saying that deals don't exist, but it is a very tight market because there's so many people looking for product to be able to do that. And so does the $150,000, and that's kind of that's the new line of demarcation for me. In other words, to me, a property has to be below $150,000 to consider it as an investment property. And for those of you that have been investing for a very long time, I know it's really hard psychologically to get your mind around that that's the new line. It used to be $100,000. That was the line. Like if it was below $100,000, then yeah, it's worth looking at and worth, buying. If it was above, well, depending on where it was and what type of rents. So that line has moved to $150,000 on a single family property. Just like that line has moved from $30,000 a door to around $42,000 a door on a multifamily property. So, with time comes appreciation. So the question of the hour, though, or not the hour, maybe the 20 minutes or the 30 minutes is, does the $150,000 deal still exist? And the answer to that question is, wait a minute, one more time. So why am I saying $150,000? I just kind of explained that a little bit, but at that price point, if you put the normal amount down, which the normal amount on a investment property loan is anywhere from 20 to 25% down with most lenders. So if you think about that, 20% down on $150,000 is $30,000, right? And so you're financing $120,000. You add your typical principal and interest payment on top of that with today's interest rate. Your note most likely is going to be somewhere around plus or minus $1,000, maybe $1,100, maybe $1,200 if the taxes are really expensive, right? So then the question becomes, if I use the math beforehand, that I'm getting $1 a square foot in rents, right? So if I get $1 a square foot in rents, my monthly mortgage payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is $1,200 a month. I'm gonna take the higher number of that, and I'm getting $1 a square foot, and I bought a 1,700 square foot house. So 1,700 square feet is $1,700 a month in rent. If my mortgage payment is $1,200 a month, that's $500 a month of cash flow. So that's a good, decent cash flow. I've also had people ask me over the years, what is worth it? What's the cash flow that's worth buying a single family? Now, rule of thumb used to be you need to make at least $200 or $250 a month in cash flow to be able to justify your cost. Some people say, I've had investors say, well, that's not enough for me. That's too much. That's too close as far as margin. And they prefer 300 or 400. Well, the margin basically depends on what you buy the property for. As I told a client yesterday, you make money when you buy, not when you lease. And what I mean by that, you make money based on the deal that you get on the house at the very beginning, and to be able to account for the price and if you have to do any renovations and upgrades and things of that nature. So the question of the 30 minutes, I keep getting back to it. I'm sorry. I just, I have to give you context, is does Bigfoot still exist? Does the $150,000 deal still exist? Does the investment property deal still exist? Can you find investment properties that are reasonable, that you can still cash flow in the Houston market, single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage properties, do they still exist? And the answer is, that was a pregnant pause. You get that, the dramatic effect right there? I know for those of you that are listening right now, y'all are like, Kevin, can you just answer the question? I wanted to be dramatic today. The Oscars were last week. I felt like I need to get a little acting in. The answer to the question is yes. 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 You can still find them. Yes. Oh my gosh. Where? Look, back in the back, I'm gonna give y'all behind the scenes. Mr. Producer is behind the camera right now doing like this for those of you that are watching the video. Where can you find them? So he's actually listed like, I want to know the secret as well. He wants to know where Bigfoot is. He wants to know where Bigfoot is. And the answer is, Mr. Producer and all those listening, you can find them everywhere except inside the loop. Sorry. Except inside the loop. All right. You can find them everywhere. Guess what? You can find them on the HAR. You can find them on HAR.com. You can find them on Zillow. You can find them. Yes, you can find them. And why do I know this? Because guess what I did before I came in the tape today? I looked for them. And I found what I thought to be at least 3 or 4, just quick look. I looked even in Fort Bend County, which is where I live, to say, okay, give me every property in Fort Bend County that's a single family house listed below $150,000. And guess what? I found a couple that, not a couple, I found more than a couple that were at least worth consideration. Right now, what did I find? Did I find them in always the greatest areas? No. Did I find them always in the greatest shape? No. Did I find them always being able to rent at $1 a square foot? No. But I found them, right? So the question really is not whether the $150,000 deal or below still exists. The question becomes, what am I getting for that $150,000 or below? And is there enough margin for me to, 1, buy it, 2, make it my biggest thing on real estate investing is it must be decent, safe, and clean, right? Decent, safe, and clean. What do I mean by that? Decent meaning that it is either in an area or has some type of factor, like close to schools, close to a bus stop, close to the workforce or working areas. Safe, is it in a relatively safe neighborhood? And safe is all relative. And can I make it safe by the way I renovate it? And then clean. You don't have to go in and put travertine into a $150,000 house. You don't have to go in and put gold dripping from the ceilings in a $150,000 house. But decent flooring, decent new paint, decent kitchens, things of that nature. Decent, safe, and clean. All right. So what does it cost me to make that particular property that? And then what can I rent it for? Right. And so if you go around Houston, specifically outside the Beltway or in and around plus or minus the Beltway 8, definitely 99. As you get closer in, it does get a little tighter, especially so there's very few areas inside the loop of Houston where you can get a deal under $150,000. That's including some areas that some people wouldn't even want to live in, to be completely honest with you, because it's infill dirt, and those areas are just taking off right now. But even then, I looked at a few before I left the office. There are some deals out there. They just would take a whole lot of work to get up and running, right? I have a friend, I've had him on the show, Tyron McDaniel, who concentrates in certain areas inside the loop, and he takes literally properties that you would think need to be condemned and makes them into beautiful, beautiful homes. And now his business model is to do that and then sell them. But he could easily do that at the prices he's getting them in and rent them out. But he loves doing the redesign and things of that nature, and repurposing and things of that nature. So does the $150,000 investment property still exist? Yes, it does still exist. You still can find deals out there, right? Here are a couple of things that you need to know if you start looking for that particular deal, though. It is highly competitive right now. It's really competitive for deals. Who are you competing against when you look for that deal? You're competing against other investors, right? And other investors, and there are 2 categories. You have the investors that are getting financed. In other words, they're going to the bank to get investment property loans. Then you have the cash investors. So you have, and if you're a seller and you look at 2 offers and both of the offers are the same, which one are you going to take? You're going to take the one that had to go get appraisal and go to the bank, or you're going to take the one with the cash, and as soon as the feasibility period is over, they can close. All right, so that's who you're competing with. Then you're competing with buyers that are wanting to live in the house, right? And I feel really sorry for them right now, because Houston's affordability used to be one of the things that we could hang our hat on, and still relative to the rest of the nation, we still have more affordable housing. When I say affordable, as far as being able to purchase a house, than most cities and most areas. However, we're not as affordable as we used to be. And so for those folks that can afford a $1,400, $1,500 or $1,200 a month mortgage, it is so hard for them to find a house right now, especially anywhere that's in the city limits, because the competition for investors with investors is just, they're getting kicked out. So if a seller has to choose between a finance investor offer, a homeowner who wants to live in a house and has an FHA mortgage, and a cash investor, even if that cash investor offers a little lower, guess which one they're choosing right now? I'm gonna do it Wu-Tang style. Cash rules everything around me. Cream get the money, dollar bill, y'all. Right? That's the one they taking. They taking the cash. For those of you that are uninformed, Wu-Tang is an American hip hop group out of the '90s. Google it. Wu-Tang, WTANG Clan. Wu-Tang Clan. Right? Anyway, so with that being said, they're taking the cash offer, and so you have to be cognizant of the fact that some properties that are listed at an aggressive 120 or 110, you're like, oh, that's it. I'm gonna make an offer. I'm gonna give them full price. Well, most likely that property is gonna go to a multiple offer situation. It's gonna get bid up. And so you have to be cognizant of the fact that when you're looking for these properties, like my grandmother used to say, do not tarry, right? I have had clients before. I have a friend of mine who's a client, and the few residential deals that I still do, he'll call me and say, hey man, I saw this property, I want you to put an offer in on it. And I like him because he doesn't tarry. In other words, I saw it, put an offer in on it, right? Versus I have other people call me, oh, what do you think? What do you think the rent? And then by the time we had a conversation, property's gone, right? So if you're gonna be in that market looking for single family housing for investment, you gotta move. You cannot tarry. You cannot sit around and think about it. Paralysis of analysis will allow you to move, to lose the deal. So does Bigfoot still exist? Yes, he does. Where is he? As Mr. Producer asked me, or where is he? He's mostly in and around the Beltway in the Houston area, or in some of the suburban markets, both north, south, east, and west, right? But those are still decent markets, right? Those are still people. We still don't have enough affordable rental housing in the Houston market. That's what people don't get is that we still don't have enough rental housing. Not everybody wants to be a homeowner. Right? I know our society and the American dream is based off of the idea of home ownership and building wealth. And that is still great and it's still possible. But not everybody can, nor does everybody want to be a homeowner. Some people like leasing. They don't want the responsibility of the home ownership, nor do they want the responsibility of the large ticket items when the roof needs to be replaced or when the AC goes out. Those are a huge, large ticket item. And just imagine if you can barely afford $1,200 to $1,300 a month in rent or a mortgage monthly payment, and the AC goes out and that's $5,000, and you don't have the money to do that, you can see why that would be an issue. And so having affordable, decent rental housing is still a priority, and you still can become wealthy over time with that. So does the $150,000 investment property still exist in the Houston market? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. I've told you where. So now the question becomes how. How do I get into one of those deals from a monetary standpoint? So again, if you do the math, 20 to 25% down, you would probably need, depending on the price of the house, if it's exactly $150,000, you need about $30,000 to get into that deal, right? $30,000 plus a couple of closing costs, but $30,000. So people always ask me, how much money do I need to get into real estate investing? And if they want to do single family, I tell them about $25,000 to $30,000, right? If you find an $80,000 house, that becomes $16,000, right? Because it's a smaller house. Don't sleep on those little, wood frame houses in the hood. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. That needs to be leased as well. They might need a little bit more work, but people need to lease. People need places to stay. They always need a place to stay. You might have to do a little bit more work, but those are opportunities as well. So depends on the price of the house. Now, the real question is, does the $50,000 real estate investment property still exist? And the answer to that is almost hell no. Every once in a while, unless you're stealing it with a gun, because you can buy lots now for $20,000, $30,000, and $40,000. So with that being said, this is your boy Kevin Riles of the Real Estate of Life. Bigfoot still exists. I'm telling you, I've seen him. He's out there. So go forth, my children, and find Bigfoot. He still exists, and make your money. I will see you guys next week. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Look. Bloop. I forgot to do subscribe. Hopefully he's going to leave that in there because that's just the realness of this, whatever. Subscribe, comment. Please subscribe to the Real Estate of Life. If you listen to this on your phone, please subscribe. Some of you have emailed me and said that you're looking at the videos. I appreciate that. If you can click on those links to the right of the screen when you're looking at the video and subscribe. We're trying to increase our subscriber base in 2019. So now that's the end. Does Bigfoot still exist? Yes. Right. I'll see you guys next week. Hey, thanks for listening as always. Do you have questions about any of the topics I'm talking about? If you have questions, let me know. Email me at kevin@kevinriles.com. Again, that's kevin@kevinriles.com. I'm going to do a podcast just on the questions that you guys are sending me. So feel free to send them to me. Again, that's kevin@kevinriles.com.